Okay. Greetings, chess players, and welcome back to the Daily Chess Musings free online summer chess camp. This is the August edition, the third and final free online summer chess camp of 2021. And today I am really happy to be able to have Francisco Anchondo as a guest on our show. And the reason is, first of all, Francisco and I have been friends for a very long time. And we have taught many chess camps together over the last couple of decades. For those of you who, I think a lot of you probably already know who Francisco is. But after this lesson, feel free to go to dailychessmusings.com and just search Francisco Anchondo. And you'll see a bunch of his other games and lessons that and photos of him and I working together from over the years. Francisco is a legitimate chess hustler who sometimes goes and plays in big tournaments. In fact, he played in the National Open, which was in Las Vegas, Nevada, at the end of June. And it was there that he had another one of his Francisco Anchondo brilliance. He's had a few of these brilliancies over the years, and I always like to feature them. And I am just thrilled to have Francisco here as well. So we're going to go through his game. And he's going to give us that first-hand knowledge of being the person who actually played the moves. So, Francisco, welcome to the show.
Hello, everybody. How you doing?
Everybody's saying hello. So, Francisco, you went to Las Vegas at the end of June, and the game that you sent me a couple games. The game I've chosen for today is the game from round 6 that you played. You were white against Pewitt Sky Morlian. And let's go ahead and take a look at the game. And I'll let you know any questions that come up along the way. So, Francisco, you started with 1e4, and Pewitt played e5, and now, Francisco, you played 2d4. What do you want to tell us about that choice?
I've always played this online, and I put it in my repertoire. And this line is really nice, you know. I like playing this.
It sets up very early tension in the center. And when Francisco says that he plays this online, I do as well, especially like in hyperbolic games, because you can preload your second move. You can preload your second move, and it creates that early tension, and then your opponent's responding to you. So let's see. Pewitt Sky Morlian plays exd4, so he captures the center pawn that was available to him. And Francisco's got a lot of options here that would be good moves. But he plays, probably the one that many of you would be thinking, and that is knight f3. Francisco, what do you want to tell us about knight f3 here?
Well, you always want to bring out your pieces, as fast as you can, and try to develop your position, and then castle, and then start your massive attack. And that's bring out your knights, your bishops, and all the basic, what they teach you in chess.
Knights
chess
before
class.
bishops and all that stuff. Let's see. And black plays knight c6, so he develops a knight as well. Both sides have a center pawn. Both sides have one knight developed. And let's see. What does Francisco play? He plays Francisco. Something happened with your camera, dude.
Yeah,
There
okay,
we
I don't know.
go.
It's just acting up.
There we go. Um, 4c3 is what you play. Now that's an interesting move. What do you want to tell us about this?
Oh, I brought out knight
He
f3, and
played
what was the
knight
other move that?
c6, and then you played c3.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's c3. Yes, exactly. It's like a Gorian gambit, and you want to bring your pieces. If he takes your pawn, you get
Mm-hmm.
developed quickly with knight takes c3, and if he doesn't do anything, you control the
Yeah.
center anyway.
So Francisco's basically
And
what Francisco's saying is he's happy either way. If the pawn takes on c3, then he's got two pieces developed and a pawn in the center, and his opponent does not have a pawn in the center and only one piece developed. And if his opponent ignores that, it's giving Francisco the opportunity to have the ideal pawn center again. So let us see. What does Pewitt play? Wow, he plays pawn to d5.
yeah, he knew his opening, so I saw this, and I don't want to open his
Uh huh.
position up. And maybe it's the wrong move, but it's kind of like I just want to throw him off his
Megan, I need your
game.
help with the window. Yeah, that it's a lot of times with gambits, it is a good idea to take the first pawn in these kind of center gambits. Take the first, and then offer one back. And this is let's see. And then normally, I think here, normally, I play when I hit this, I play like knight takes d4, dx e4, all this kind of stuff, bishop e5, and the knight's threatening c6, the bishop's threatening c6. That's what I normally respond with, but Francisco um, is an attacking specialist, and he played 5e5, and I went and looked it up because I was just curious. Well, who else has played this? And lo and behold, Joseph Henry Blackburn. This was his. This was his line as well. So, what do you want to tell us about e5, Francisco? And again, Megan.
Well, I'm glad I'm in good company, especially with the Black Death was
Yeah.
his nickname, right? Blackburn was an attacking crazy man that just
And
threw
he
everything
almost
at
was
you.
world champion. He played a match against
Correct.
Steinitz. Had he won that match, he would have been a world champion. Um, yeah, so you are in good company by instead of engaging in what Black wants you to do, pushing that pawn, your center pawn, onto their side of the board, and your opponent plays Bishop f5, a developing move. He could have played like in that Blackburn game, that continued dxc3, and then Blackburn did something interesting there, Francisco. He played bxc3 instead of knight takes c3. Blackburn was an interesting attacking chess player. But your opponent
Hmm.
played, and when I put this game up, guys, on the Daily Chess Musings blog after we do this broadcast, I'll be sure to include the entire Blackburn game that I'm referencing, and then you can compare Francisco's game with Blackburn's game, and there's a lot of good comparisons to be made about the styles of these two chess players. Um, so your opponent played Bishop f5, and you played cxd4. So what do you want to tell us about that?
Well, I mean, he's giving me the whole center, and Might as well
Yeah.
take your pawn, right? And now you have a control of the center, and you just gotta deal with that. I mean,
Yeah,
and
I
play
mean
that.
he's going to be a little uncomfortable now, because obviously he's not going to be able to play knight f6. Um, the ideas maybe he might have of knight b4 don't quite work because you've got queen a4 check, um, and you've got two pawns in the center. He's only got one, but he has two pieces developed, and you only have one. So it's interesting. It's interesting. So Francisco had played what, move five, e5 a pawn move, and then move six, cxd4 a pawn move. So in fact, his opponent has more pieces developed right now than Francisco does, even though Francisco is the one who started with the gambit. And sometimes you just got to go with the flow. You can't force your plan onto your opponent. Um, Six, bishop b4 check. So your opponent brings a third piece into the game, and he has three pieces in. You only have one, and he's checking you. And you respond. You respond with knight to c3, which develops a piece, but it doesn't really count because it's pinned. What do you want to tell us about this, Francisco? What were you thinking right now? Were you feeling good about the way the opening's going for you?
Well, I like it because number one, if he does take your knight, then you trade off one of the bishops for the knight,
Mm-hmm.
and then bolster your center with after bishop takes c3, then b takes c3, and
Sure.
then you get control of the whole thing. And then you also got ideas like bishop a3, hindering from actually castling the king side. But you got a lot of ideas here, and I want to keep my bishops.
Yeah.
So
So that point Francisco is bringing up is he's not too worried about the bishop on b4 taking c3 because number one, he doesn't mind having a pawn on c3. To have a pawn on c3, d4, and e5, he would be fine with that. Number two, it gets rid of his opponent's bishop pair, and bishop pairs are useful in endgames. So let's see what ends up happening. Black plays knight g to e7. Presumably they want to get a path to castling, right? So they can't play knight f6. So the knight has to go to e7, so they get this chance to castle. And then Francisco plays a3, threatening that bishop. And Francisco, did you have anything you wanted to say about that?
yeah, I just putting the question to the bishop and then telling him, what you're gonna do now.
Yeah.
So I want him to. It's kind of like a harassing move, but I want him to either make up his mind or whatever.
Well,
I'm ready to go.
especially that a3 move's especially effective because he's put his knight on e7 now. So the bishop can't retreat to e7, which is a square maybe it would want to go to. And again, if the bishop takes the knight, Francisco's happy. He's already said he would be happy to play bx c3 and have that pawn chain, and his opponent has no bishop pair. And if his opponent does not, let's see what happens. Let's see. His opponent plays, or I should say Pewitt plays. I don't need to say his opponent. We know the name. Bishop a5. Bishop a5. So Francisco, he retreats back, but keeps the pin alive. And Francisco, you play bishop e2. 9 bishop e2. So what's going on with that, Francisco?
Well, I just want to get my pieces out, and so I can get ready to castle.
Yeah. And when you look at it, bishop d3, he would be happy with. He could just trade with you. Bishop b5 is a possibility, but then he could play a6 and do the same thing to your bishop that you did to his, and so it kind of leaves bishop e2 as the way to get the bishop into the game so that you can castle. Pewitt castles and Francisco castles. And then Pewitt plays h6. Now, I'm not a particular fan of that move, but I guess he's afraid, and there's good reason to be, that you're going to play bishop g5, right? He's afraid
That
of
also knight to h4, threatening the,
Oh,
you
that's
know,
right. Very good. Yes, yes, yes. So there's two reasons why black might want to play h6. It's a slow pawn move, but knight h4 and bishop g5 are both looming threats. So Francisco plays bishop e3. And what do you want to tell us about this?
well, I just wanted to bolster my center, and overprotect the d4 pawn,
Mm-hmm.
and don't want to have any surprises.
Yep. And
And I want to get all my pieces out, and I got some ideas with queen d2, and with a possibility of sacking at h6 for the two pawns, and then
yeah.
you bring your knight in. It'll probably be unsound, but
Hey, it's fun stuff.
it would be great if he's in time pressure, and that would probably be the only reason I would do it then, because it'd be hard for them to try to anybody to defend a position like
Yeah,
that.
so what Francisco's saying is there's a possibility he might play queen d2, unifying rooks. And then there's another possibility, and his opponent would certainly have to be worried about the possibility of bishop takes h6, pawn takes h6. I'll go, and then queen could go out to h6, and so you're basically trading a bishop for two pawns, but then your opponent's king is super exposed. Let's see. Let's see. So bishop h7. So Pewitt puts his bishop into that loof that he created when he played h6. And now you respond with rook c1. Rook to c1. What do you want to tell us about that, Francisco?
Well, I brought the rook in there because he was saying, "Hey, man, what about me? I want to play too."
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to get into the game, and you want to bring all your army together before you start your attack.
And c1
And
makes the most sense because Francisco does not have a pawn in the c file. So the rook sees more squares. It sees more squares. You want to be able to place your pieces where they see more squares. And Pewitt plays bishop b6. Um, redirecting the bishop back to that critical d4 square, but d4 is super protected. So he's made a couple extra moves with his bishops here that maybe he didn't have to make. And Francisco now decides to play bishop d3. Now he plays bishop d3. Now this is interesting because a couple of moves ago, he didn't play bishop d3 when black's bishop was on f5, but Francisco's gotten a couple more pieces in the game. And he plays bishop d3 at this point, offering the possible trade of bishops. So what do you want to tell us about that?
well, I wanted to exchange the actual bishop that's there, and not have a problem, later on, because I just wanted to get rid of that bishop that he has on that long diagonal and challenge it.
Yeah,
And that's it. I have to gain control of my position there, and
sure.
basically
and
You have to challenge
Francisco's
the
an
low.
attacking chess player, and the bishop on e2 was not very much help would not be very much help in this position to form an attack. On d3, it would be. Let's see. Black declines trading with you and plays knight to f5. And now you finish your development by playing queen to c2. Queen to c2. So you're threatening the knight twice. It's only defended once. What else do you want to tell us about this move, Francisco?
Well, I'm threatening the knight because if he takes any my d4 pawn, I'm setting up a trap. Then I take the bishop with check.
Yes, yes. So what Francisco is saying, and this is worthy of explanation on the board. I'll go ahead and make some moves. Black is threatening d4 three times now, and what he's saying is if let's say Black plays knight c takes d4, Francisco could take back with his knight. If bishop takes then d4, Francisco could take back with his bishop. If knight takes d4, it's threatening Francisco's queen. But Francisco can take first and say bishop takes h7, check. So it's a little trap. If Black gets too greedy, it not only completes his development and threatens the knight twice, and in fact, it might even be more likely that Black would start with the knight that's threatened twice. The whole chain of events. They might start, since the knight's threatened twice, they might start with knight f takes d4, then knight takes, then knight takes. And then right here, Francisco would have the choice of playing bishop takes h7 check or bishop takes d4. But either way, he comes out for a piece for a pawn because of
I interrupted something. No, you have to take the bishop with check and then take the piece.
yeah, you have to take the bishop with check and then take the piece. So he would have to step out of check, take. Always, it's almost always better to keep the initiative in these kinds of things. Let's see. So queen to c2. And Black does not fall for the trap, though. He plays queen to d7. So both sides have completed their three opening goals. Pawn in the center, castling, and unifying rooks. Let's see. What does Francisco play here? We might start doing some guessing the moves. In fact, I think that would be fun. I think we're going to start guessing the moves now that we're comfortably out of the opening. If you have an idea of what Francisco might play, go ahead and say it in chat, please. And while I'm waiting for some responses from you guys, let me just talk a little bit more about Francisco Anchondo. Francisco not only has taught many high-level camps with me, he was club champion of the San Antonio Chess Club. He was club champion of the Hayward Chess Club. And a lot of you might not know where Hayward, California is, but it was a hotbed of chess activity for a lot of years. A lot of strong players came out of the Hayward area. And so for Francisco to be club champion there is very, very impressive. He also has played chess in numerous countries in different tournaments, and also he's met several world champions, including Tal and Karpov, and had a chance to play Tal and beat Tal in a blitz game. So let's. A lot of people are suggesting pawn g4 here. That's interesting. That is not what Francisco plays, but let's let's take a little look at it. If pawn g4, then I'm guessing knight f can then take d4. And then, as Francisco said, you would want to play bishop takes h7. Black would have to step out of check. And then you could take back knight takes d4. But then, see, here's the problem. Here maybe is the problem in this line of thinking. g4 exposes your king, and black could play queen takes g4. Check in the middle of it. Thomas is saying g4, knight takes e3, bishop, king takes fx. And then he's saying fx e3. That line of thinking doesn't quite work because we can't take our own piece back, Thomas. So g4 is not. It's an interesting one, but it is not what Francisco plays here. But good guess to V. Calaverkuru and Darsh. That's good attacking, creative thinking. So back to our position. Anybody else? Now that we know that g4 is not what Francisco played.
That would be a blunder, by the way. Knight takes bishop, and then the pawn at g4 is exposed to the queen.
Yep.
You know,
that's what we just uncovered. The fact that the pawn would be exposed to the queen. So the little combinational trap that Francisco had earlier doesn't work because just as Francisco is able to take h7 with a check, black's able to take g4 with a check. What about knight takes d5? Brandon, that is outstanding. Brandon, that is what is played. Knight takes d5.
Yeah, that is a overworked piece, and that would be the queen is overworked now.
Mm-hmm.
If notice that the queen has to take care of the knight at f5,
mm-hmm.
and if queen takes d5, then I just win a pawn. You know.
So what Francisco's saying, and in fact that happens in the game, so we don't need to look at that. What Francisco is saying is if queen takes d5, and that is what happened, then Francisco plays bishop takes f5, of course, and he wins a pawn because his knight took a pawn, the queen took a knight, and then his bishop takes a knight. So Francisco got a pawn out of that exchange, and a center pawn, by the way, and a center pawn. These are the nice little tactics that win you games that a lot of players don't notice. You have to look at your checks, captures, and threats. So black plays bishop takes f5 on move 16, and Francisco, of course, takes back with his queen. Queen takes f5. And let's go ahead and pause for a second. We're on move 17. Queen takes f5, and Francisco, put us in your mind at the time. What were you thinking about how the game was going for you at this point?
Well, I mean, I'm happy because I got that pawn there in the center. Mm-hmm. He can't take the d4 pawn because there's a little subtle trap involved with it. That being the rook at f to d1, and if he ever decides to take the d4 pawn, then he'd be in a lot of hot water.
Yeah. You know? So you were quite pleased at this point, and let's see. Black plays rook a to d8. Rook a to d8, and That makes sense. I mean, he's really stacking on the back of the pawn chain, right? He's really adding pressure. Pewett's adding a ton of pressure to Francisco's base of his pawn chain and center pawn d4 there. The reason I paused for a little bit is I was just a little curious. I know Ben Feingold, and I watch his YouTube fairly often. He's a good teacher. I know Ben Feingold says never play f6, but f6 here, catches my attention because it's attacking White's pawn center while indirectly threatening the queen. So White could play like Queen G4, and then FX E5. Black could get a center pawn, but then Francisco has that Bishop takes H6 move. And then I guess Black could play Rook F7 to defend it. Okay, I was just musing to myself about the possibilities of playing F6 since Ben Feingold says never play it. Anytime somebody tells me never do something, I'm always looking for an opportunity to do it. All right, so Rook A D8. Oh, this is a great time to pause, by the way. I got a little distracted with my F6 idea, but what do you guys think Francisco should do? His opponent just played. Francisco played 17 Queen X F5, then Rook A to D8. What should Francisco's next? Thomas says Bishop H6 incoming. Thomas, you are spot on. Francisco plays Bishop takes H6. And Francisco, what do you want to tell us about this move?
Well, after he played Rook A D8, I was really, really happy because I had just set up this whole scheme here where in the old days the old masters used to sacrifice their pieces on the king side, and then this is just a pattern that I learned a long time ago. And I mean, he can't get away from it. I mean, the only thing that he can do is he has to concede with queen to e6, and then just try to exchange the queens, but that doesn't work. It's not gonna be. I mean, he's down like what, 2 pawns now?
Yeah.
And then I can always avoid to take the queen, and then I just play Queen G5, threatening mate.
Yeah.
And or actually, I just take his queen and then bring the bishop back. But
that's true too. Yeah, that's true too. Trading queens, saving the bishop. You're up 2 pawns. That's good enough. 2 pawns is good enough.
And then if he takes the d4 pawn, then I've got that c pawn at c7. That after all the exchanges, my rook invades on the 7th.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a winning game for me. I'm happy.
Lots of wins. And the bishop takes h6 move is the kind of move that I think a lot of players wouldn't play, because the follow-up isn't another check, right? So what I mean by that, and I don't want to give it away, I'm going to let the players guess, but Francisco plays bishop takes h6, then gx h6, and what is White's best move? I may have given away too much with my thought there.
Well, now I mean,
wait. I'm asking the guys.
Oh, okay. Yep. Well,
Francisco, tilt your camera up a little bit. There you go. Now we see your mug again.
All right.
So we are wondering, what do you guys think? Let's see. Thomas says knight h4. Nope. Francisco chose a different move. Let's see if you can spot this.
If you can spot this next move, it's like a 2300 move.
This is a very impressive move. And see, the bishop h6 is a good move, and a lot of people would possibly play that. But spotting the best follow up, Francisco's right. This is like a 2300 level puzzle. So rook c3 is not what we're going for. Knight h4 is not what we're going for. Knight g5. Darsh, you got it. Excellent job, Darsh.
Great, that is perfect. If he takes I'm threatening mate, and the whole thing is that you want to threaten mate, and you got to remember that on the columns when you're attacking, you can bring the rook lift up, and then have him. You slay the king on the h file. If he takes, then queen takes, check, king goes to the h file, then rook to c3, and then that's it.
Yeah, yeah, and Thomas was saying something similar about how rook c3 is also good, but knight g5 is forcing, and rook c3 is flexible. And yeah, when you're the attacking chess player, you want to choose the more forcing option.
I'll give you variation here. If pawn takes knight, queen takes knight, check, queen takes pawn, check, king to h8 or h7,
King to
either
h7,
or.
yeah, and
then rook c3, and queen to e6, and then now here you don't you're gonna win. You can actually win the queen, but you got to be careful. After queen takes rook, your whole g file is open.
this is true. And you could lose your queen back. So what Francisco's saying is, even though he's in like solid command of the attack, you got to be careful because after rook h3, queen has to take h3, but then your g file's open, and then black could fire back with rook g8, right?
So you got to use your initiative again because it's your move. He moved at h7 per se, and then you just hit him with queen to h4 check, right?
Yeah, instead. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Let me back up for a second. Let's see. So going back to knight g5, and then if hx g5, what Francisco's saying is queen takes g5, king h7, then play queen h5 check. Play with the check right there, so your queen's not in the file with your king anymore.
No, correction, queen h4, so there's no so you can actually take with the if you play rook to g3 check, or rook to h3, then you could take with the queen, and you don't have to open up your file, and you're winning.
Ah, very good, very good.
So you have to avoid opening up your file, so you can't. You got to take him out like an artist and not a butcher.
Yeah, yeah. You're close to finishing, but that sacking the queen on h3 to get rid of the checkmate, and then turning around losing your queen. Wow. That is such a dangerous thing that a lot of players could fall into that. And tell me, when you were playing there, when you were playing, did you calculate that as well at the board?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Awesome.
Of course, you have to.
Awesome. So
almost
yeah,
is not right.
Yeah, yeah, you got to be very careful. So Francisco was calculating. Let's see, he was out there pretty far and calculating the check. We're on move 19, and he was worried about something that happens on move 23. So yeah, he's doing his due diligence and winning. That is a neat. I'm glad you pointed that tactic out to us, Francisco. That was really neat. All right, so your opponent also is calculating, and he does not take because he sees he's going to lose. Now maybe maybe he didn't see that trap that Francisco was calculating, and we have to wonder if maybe that was his best chance of actually winning the game. Is, even though it's not the best move, his best chance of winning the game might be hoping that his opponent misses the trap we just showed. But Pewitt does play what looks to be the best move. Probably, yeah. I mean, it saves you from checkmate, but isn't the HXG5 line that leads to that mating combination that we were just looking at. So Rook F E8 is what Pewitt plays, and let's see. What do you guys think Francisco's going to play? I think this one's pretty easy. I bet you a lot of you are going to tell us what the 20th move is. So again, Francisco played the incredible Knight G5. Just an incredible move. His opponent responds by not falling for the HX G5 trap and instead plays Rook F to E8. And now, what do you think, Francisco?
What do I think?
No. I'm asking them. What do they think Francisco's going to play? What do you guys think? What would you play here as white? Yeah, Queen H7, obviously. Very good, Thomas. Coming in with the correct answers left and right. And useful discussion. Thomas, thanks for joining us today. And then Black has to play King F8. And now, let's see if you can get this move. What do you guys think now? So we have Queen H7, King F8. And while you're thinking about that, let me just say that I am doing the fair play reviews of all the games played in our Summer Games event last week, and we'll be this weekend we will announce the winners. They will be official winners. Unofficially, you can see who won each section on chess.com, but I'm just double checking all the fair play, as I always do with events that I run through Daily Chess Musing. So we will be announcing the winners of the Summer Games events and the prizes this weekend. And as always, I will give you through the weekend to finish doing as many points as you can for this camp. So the camp may finish on Friday, but maybe you didn't finish all your assignments. You can go ahead and turn in and do extra credit points through the weekend. Queen H6 is not what Francisco plays. He has a better move. Queen H6 is a good move, but Francisco has a better one. Nice try, Thomas. Anybody else?
What would Tal play?
Yeah, what would Tal play? Last time Francisco was here, he showed us a game by Mikhail Tal. Also, you can go through the YouTube channel and find that lesson. It was a really pretty game that Francisco. Francisco, I'm hearing my echo on your device again.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. Do the extra assignments give points? Yes, they do, Thomas. Queen H8 is not the move either. E6. Rando says E6. Shrihan says E6. Very good. Very good. Mikhail Tal would play E6. It is just a beautiful move. All right, so pawn to E6. And tell us about what you're feeling now, Francisco.
Well, I was looking at this, and then I said, oh, man, I thought I had made a boo-boo, but it turns out that my calculation was correct. E6 is a blocking sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
If the queen takes and he loses his queen for a piece, and if the pawn, if the queen takes knight, then it's mate at f7. So he doesn't have much but to play king e7 and get out of there.
Yeah. So that's what he does. He plays king e7, and then let me have them guess again. What do you think Francisco plays here? Move 21, king e7, Francisco's 22nd move. Yep, Shrihan, I agree. It would be very sad to be playing black right now. I agree. When Francisco sees when he sees the tactics, he is bringing Tal back to life. He is bringing Blackburn back to life through his moves. A lot of people are saying queen takes f7, and that is not what Francisco plays.
No, that is a blunder. Actually, yeah, you're still winning, but you're not putting him away like you're supposed to because he's still got he's got the two rooks.
King goes to d6. You could play queen f4 check. You could check him a few times. In fact, he could go back to e7. Yeah. So you're not putting him away. You're not putting him away.
You're gonna win here,
and not ex f7 either. Somebody suggested that if ex f7, black could play rook f8, and again, you're not getting it done.
And note that his time pressure, he was in time pressure because he was using a lot of time trying to get out of this mess, and I don't want to let him escape, like a slippery eel.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that you're correct and precise, and yeah, you could you could do whatever you want doing that check and all that, but it would be a draw if you don't play it right. So
all this beautiful attack could be spoiled by one inaccuracy. This, see that bishop takes h6 sacrifice, right? The knight g5 move, all this beautiful stuff. You could spoil it with one inaccuracy right now. Nope, not rook f to e1 either. I mean, rook f to e1 makes a little bit of sense, but you're forgetting about queen takes g5. Yeah, e takes f7 check, but then the king can go to d6, and you've lost your knight. Good thoughts, though. Even if you suggest the wrong move, you're suggesting things that are making me look at them on the chessboard, and we're all learning. So don't feel bad if you're suggesting something that's not the best move, because this is a learning process, and if you're participating, you're learning more, and you're helping us learn more too. Nobody's got it yet. Knight takes f7. Thomas just came in with the correct move. So Francisco plays knight takes f7. And Francisco, what do you want to tell us about this?
The rook, if the rook comes to h8 trying to harass your queen, then your knight controls h8.
Yes, that's important.
With check.
Yep, with check. That's true too. If that knight moves, it's a check on the king. But yeah, the knight guarding h8 is an important detail.
So knight takes f7. And his whole position is in shambles. I mean, he's trying to get out of this mess, and I don't know. I mean, he could play queen queen. What is it? Queen takes e6, then you have knight g5, winning the queen.
Yep.
And also, if I mean, he doesn't have a chance. I mean,
he could try, king takes e6 as well, but then you got knight to d8 check, queen takes d8, and then rook c to e1 check, as Francisco said.
no, actually, if that occurs, then you have there is a move here. Hang on. So yeah, well, if he takes there, then you have what is it, queen? You could bring your rook in,
Mm-hmm.
or check in with a queen at g6. Either
I like
or.
keeping the queen on the 7th rank when I bring the rook in, because then I know his king can't go back. It's a very
That's
it's a
true.
very Morphy-esque kind of idea. Stuff I learned from Paul Morphy. Let's see what Pewitt does. Pewitt
Mm-hmm.
plays rook to d6. Uh-oh. Let's see if the class, the viewers, can tell us, how does Francisco what is Francisco's most punishing move now? Rook went to d6. We're almost there. We can taste victory. Francisco, we lost your face on the broadcast, sir.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. There we go. What do you guys think Francisco should do here? His opponent just played. Again, he played the beautiful knight takes f7. Rook d6 is what his opponent plays. Yes, Thomas, knight takes d6 is what Francisco plays. Knight takes d6, check. Because remember, Francisco said as soon as he moves that knight, it's a check. And then king takes d6. And now this should be a mate in one. Do you guys see it? Oh, Thomas already said knight takes d6 and queen d7. Yes. That's how the game finished. And then it's worth exploring. I always like to explore. If knight takes d6 check and king takes e6, then you've got knight takes e8, right? And then I guess black could play queen takes d4, rook f to e1, bringing more pieces to the party, as someone said in the chat. And then knight to e5, blocking. But then knight takes c7, check, bishop takes c7 now, rook takes c7. Things are getting really bad for black, with a queen and a rook in the 7th rank and a knight in the e-file pinned. Queen could go to f4, then queen to d7 check. Since the knight's pinned, king f6, queen to g7 check. King goes to f5 maybe. Rook to c5, pinning the knight again. King goes to e6. There might be a faster way, but I'm sure I'm going to end this in mate in a second. Rook, let's see. You know what? I'm going to use this rook. I'm going to use the rook e to say check. And then after after queen takes, then queen takes, and then king f7. Yeah, we're going to finish this in mate. King g6, and then rook g7 is checkmate. And let's just be thorough. There was also king f6 is a possibility. But then we just have queen f7, right? That's easy. King g5, queen g7, king h5, pawn to g4, king h4, queen takes h6 again. Black's just in shambles, as Francisco says. h3 check, king f3, and then queen e3 mate. So no matter what happens, Francisco is going to checkmate. His opponent played king takes d6, and Francisco finished it with queen d7 checkmate under 25 moves. And yeah, it was a massacre. But remember, there was a point in this game. There was a point in this game where both sides were castled, had finished their development. Let me get to that point. Yeah, it was right after 14 Queen D7. You know, Francisco's got a slight edge. And then he plays Knight takes D5, winning the center pawn with that pretty tactic. And one tactic led to another tactic, right? So he wins the center pawn. And then he sacks his bishop on h6. Just beautiful stuff. And then the knight g5 move is it's actually my second favorite move. I know that might be surprising to a lot of you, but it's my second favorite move. It's absolutely beautiful. If it's your first favorite, that's great. But my favorite move of the game is that little pawn to e6. That little pawn to e6. And I have to say, probably my favorite moment of our lesson was Francisco showing us that even with this beautiful attack, he had to be mindful of the fact that he could end up losing his queen if that g-file opened during that attack. And that was a beautiful line too. If you remember, let me go back to that in my notes real fast. That was a real eye-opener. Where was I? I thought I had that in my notes. Maybe I don't know. But that was a real eye-opener. I will also put the Blackburn game that involved that early e5 push, just like Francisco used, in the notes to this game, so you can study both. This was a fantastic lesson. And let's see. Let me look for last questions. Sonic Shi wants to know, did you get prizes? Did you win a prize in this tournament, Francisco?
No, I actually got 4.5 out of 7. I lost my last round game in round 7. My opponent was very strong. I mean, he was an Indian kid from Texas. Very strong. I mean, he's like, he's like in the 1900s section and playing very strong. I mean, the kid was like, he's playing like a master.
So he's going to be a superstar.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
That's okay, Francisco. You won the Brilliancy Prize today on Daily Chess Musings. You win our Brilliancy Prize. This was a fantastic lesson, and like I said, I will put all this up with notes from this lesson. I was taking notes during this as well, so you can replay through the game and review what we discussed and learn even more. This was a real attacking masterpiece, Francisco. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today at the free online summer chess camp.
Oh, no problem. My pleasure. It's always good to contribute to the younger crowd out there, and they're trying to get better. And of course, you have to make sure that you leave something behind before you go from this earth.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. It's your legacy to keep swashbuckling attacking chess alive for the next generation. You're carrying the torch of the Blackburns and the Talls. You're carrying that torch forward.
I mean, some of the kids they have the talent to be a grandmaster, and it's sad that some of the kids choose to go a different route. But they have the talent to go above and beyond, to become a great chess player. But there's a lot of stuff in life, that people choose different things, and it's sad, that the talent goes not to waste, but they decide, of course, that's their own, prerogative to choose whatever they want. and of course, chess. Chess is great. I mean, some of the kids that I've taught. I mean, a couple of them very great talents. And
For
I just
Francisco's been one of the top chess coaches in our region, the Northern California region, for decades, and he's slowed down a little bit because of some health issues and a big car wreck he was in. Um, but if you want to get in touch with him, just send me an email, and maybe I'll forward it along. Dailychessmusings at gmail.com, dailychessmusings at gmail. I'll go ahead and forward it along to him. And also be sure to check out, he's sent me a lot of games over the years, and I've posted a lot of his games on dailychessmusings.com. So be sure to check out, like I said, search for Francisco Anchondo, or even just Francisco, that's fine. Just do the search on Daily Chess Musings, use the search bar, and you'll see probably at least a dozen games, other brilliancies that he's played like this. Francisco, again, thank you for contributing to the future of attacking chess by being with us here today at the free online summer chess camp. I will see everybody back tomorrow at the usual time on this channel. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, and remember to like this video. Don't forget to give us a like.